has been approved by Outcasted OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Outcasted OC. Oh, it's just the two of us. We can make it if we try this week. Today, we are talking... Do you like that? It was good, that, wasn't it?
That was a good one.
We are talking about Star Wars this week. A little bit different, bit of a pop culture episode. We've got a lot to discuss. We've got the end of the Bad Batch that came to an end last week. We have got Tales of the Empire. Ross hasn't seen all of it, but he knows the ending, so we can talk about it. It's all good. Spoiler.
I got spoiled by the ending, and then literally 20 minutes after I was spoiled the ending, I saw your video breaking down the last episode, and I was like, I guess I could watch Rhys's hot take on it. Like, I guess.
It's I love the ending, but we will get into that.
Yeah.
But we've also got the Acolyte trailer. We can also talk about. Have you seen that?
Oh, of course. And we have Star Wars Outlaws to also talk about because they showed more content for it.
See, that's new to me. I've not even seen the new content of it, so you can explain that to me.
You didn't see the gameplay for it. Oh, I've got so much to tell you. You're gonna instantly want to buy this game when I tell you what they showed.
Oh, dude, honestly, man, yeah, like it's probably. I heard that there was like a bit of a reveal, but like I didn't get around to. I've had a bit of a long weekend, so I haven't been able to just like watch the footage or anything like that. So, well, that's cool. It's cool that you got something to show me then. But we might as well start off with a big subject. Like, it's on the thumbnail, so we might as well kick things off. Right. I'm going to ask you a broad question. Okay.
Oh, okay, nice.
What did you think of season 3 of the Bad Batch and how it ended? Like, did you like it, or like did you think it was a perfect way to end the show?
I loved it. Ending wise, yeah, it was open ended. I like Omega's becoming a pilot for the Republicans and the Rebels. Maybe we get to see her in later stuff going on. It's also cool to know, maybe there was a pilot called Omega that was in between these things. That's a clone that people still kind of forget about. And just seeing Wrecker and, we didn't even really get to see Wrecker and Crosshair, but just getting to see, like, Hunter being that old kind of dad figure, being like, you'll still always be kid to us, really hit home for me for the whole season of, like, okay, we've grown 2 seasons of knowing Omega is this kid. And season 3, for me, was that whole storyline of Omega's growing up and being exactly like how all her brothers would be. Being tactical, being these clones, doing missions on her own, taking the initiative of, you have to listen to me. This is the plan. And for me, it was that perfect coming of age type of story for season 3, and I think it was the best way to do that season for me.
That's why I love just adding on to what you said about Omega there. I love the progression of Omega in season 3, and what I liked about it is we didn't see Tech. I'm glad that he stayed unalived. I feel like it was probably the perfect way to end this story, but in a way we kind of did see Tech because Omega took a lot what he taught her in season 1 and season 2 and really used it in this series. She used the piloting skills that Tech taught her. She used the robotic skills that Tech taught her to reprogram that droid in like the last episode. That was
sick. Yeah, I loved seeing that like little spark in her eye of, I actually know how to fix this droid, and I was like, oh, let's go, this is cool.
Unbelievable. Yeah, like that's the biggest thing. Like the two biggest characters who had the best arc this season, I would say, is Omega and Crosshair. And I think that all in all, not just season 3, but the whole season, all the seasons, I think Crosshair has had my favorite personal story arc. A guy that went from, I mean, even talking about those Clone Wars episodes that it was in before the Bad Batch even came out.
Yeah.
A guy that went from a sniper, basically, who lives, like, you know, I want to say for himself, like, who is very reserved, very, he sticks to himself, basically. He's part of the team, but He likes to stay quiet. He's very introverted. And then you see him in season 1 of the Bad Batch. He becomes this part of the machine because he basically chooses the way that he wants to go in terms of like the Empire. He thinks he can be a useful resource to the Empire. Good soldiers follow orders and everything. And he sees what the rest of the Bad Batch are doing is kind of chaos. So he doesn't like chaos. So obviously, snipers like calm. They like accuracy. They like like everything about the Empire suits Crosshair perfectly. But then when he realizes what the Empire is doing, not just to him but to the rest of the galaxy, he really comes out of his shell. And by the end of the season, I mean, I thought his storyline was gonna end for good in season 3. I didn't think we were gonna see these.
I had that feeling as well, especially like the last episode where he was fighting off everyone. I was like, right, I only see one or two people coming out of this circumstance, and I panicked because I was like, this is the one time I genuinely don't want to see Crosshair like gone. I want him to stay, to be there for Echo, because
I agree.
Like, I wanted him to be there for Echo to help out when obviously the clones are now doing what they're doing, which we'll get into in a bit. But also just being there for Omega because their bond really showed, and I felt like it wouldn't have had that big impact of Omega running to all of them if Crosshair wasn't there, because she put all her faith in Crosshair being like, look, everyone deserves a second chance, and I know you're going to try your best to find me, and I believe you will. So having Crosshair nearly die in that moment, I was like, don't do it. Like, don't have that situation. Like, find a way to get him there. And I was so happy they did, because it added so much more emotion to what was going through Omega in those moments for me.
I agree. What I love about the dynamic between Crosshair and Omega is even go back to literally the first episode of season 1. Like, Omega has never given up on Crosshair. Like, there's a scene in the very first episode where they're all sat in that jail cell, and she goes to sit next to Crosshair and says, like, I know it's not your fault. It's just part of your nature and stuff like that. Like, even when the rest of the batch have kind of come to terms with, like, Crosshair has always been a little bit different than all of us. Like, that's what Tech says. Omega has never given up on Crosshair, even when he was working with the Empire at the end of season 1, where they was left into Poker City, where they was left on that, when he decided to wait for the Empire while they got off in the ship. She was the last person to speak to him, and I just think it's I just thought it was beautiful the way, like, in the end, like, she was right about him all along. Like, like the fatherly figure that he kind of became for Omega in that season was amazing. Like, asking if she was all right, if she needed help, always concerned for her. Yes, Crosshair was the star of this season for me.
So for me, hence in my title, Wrecker just pushed over the edge for me, and there was 2 scenes why Wrecker was the true MVP for me.
Oh, go on.
The fact my man didn't care who was literally training Omega to see if she was a Jedi, didn't care she is like this massive assassin, anything. The main thing he cared about doing was, go on, Omega, I believe you can do it. Hyping her up. And then also, the last episode, he is fighting arguably these most insane clones with the most ridiculous weapons. He gets stabbed and tased with this like energy like spear. First 3 lines that he comes out as soon as he wakes up and he's fighting them off. Get the kid. He didn't care about his own life. He didn't care what else was going on. His focus was literally, boom, I'm here. I'll knock anyone out. Just go and get Omega. That's what we came to do. Regardless of what happens to me, get Omega. And the dude was fighting on half a tank of gas. We have to remember, he got injured really badly by a creature before he even started fighting any of these clones. And he still stared him down and was like, get the kid. Like, he didn't even look the guy in the eye. This was what was so sick about the scene. He's getting stabbed. He grabs it, doesn't even look at the guy in the eye, leans over, looks at Hunter, looks at Crosshair, and says, go get the kid, and run, like, gets them to run after. And I thought, yeah, for me, MVP, because that was just everything in that scene.
I've always loved the relationship between Omega and Rekka. I mean, like Omega always calls all the
100%.
rest of the clones like her brothers and stuff like that. But that is literally her big brother. Like she loves Rekka. Like after every mission, they used to go get the box of Mantel mix and stuff like that, and like just
That's
pig
what I'm
out
saying.
on.
He was like the true big brother. He threw all his concern, all his care in the side. He was like, look, I just want Omega good. Like, don't matter about me. And that hit
Yeah.
hard for me. Because I like Rekka was already my favorite character because he is the embodiment of what I loved about the clones is they are built to be these powerhouses. They are built to be efficient with the missions, but they can have fun. They still have a personality. And Rekka oozed that with just the quirky names, the love for explosions, the being a bit bulkier than all the other clones, and that. And he made it his whole thing. Yet you could see he was the biggest softy when it came to the people he cared about. Like, tech passing really shocked Rekka up for the first couple of episodes of season 3. And you noticed that because Rekka wasn't cracking as many jokes. Rekka focused on a lot more of the missions being like, let's just get it done. So he was trying to distract himself by everything else that was going on instead of tech. And like that also, I think, really added to him this season.
I agree. There was a moment in the last episode where I actually thought we were going to lose Rekka. After he had a fight with all those CX troops, and Echo was like, where's Omega? And like he didn't even really answer him. He was just like slid down the wall and was like, and I was like, oh no, please don't.
Yeah. As soon as they did that, I was like, right, I'm content with the fact I'm probably losing Rekka. At least Crosshair didn't go. And then, like, when I saw Rekka was still good, I was like, thank God that someone listened. They didn't kill Rekka on me. But yeah.
It's nice to have a... Sorry, go on, dude.
I think having a happy ending, not having every single member of the crew die, was really good. Because Star Wars has a lot of skeleton crews, a lot of people go and die. Like, my favorite Star Wars movie, everyone says it's a very hard watch because everyone dies. Like
Rogue One?
Rogue One is my all-time favorite Star Wars movie.
That's a dub. That's a dub take. Rogue One is sick.
For me, Rogue One is the embodiment of it's Star Wars without needing to be Star Wars, and that's what I loved about it. It shows all the politics. It shows the lead up to obviously the 3 most iconic movies in the Star Wars franchise, because how Rogue One ends, boom, Darth Vader coming after that message that's being sent out. And for me, the build of that story, everyone knew their sacrifice and are down to do it. That happens in Star Wars so much that people don't talk about. When you talk
it was Andor, but in a film. That's Rogue One
literally, yeah. And this is the thing, like when you talk Star Wars, you talk about lightsabers, you talk about the Force. For me, I love the espionage. I love the like missions, like the proper high stakes sci-fi stuff of just regular people. Like half of that crew in Rogue One had no Force abilities. Like the one, I can't even remember his name. It's the one played by Donnie Yen, the blind one.
Oh, is his name like Chirrut Unwi or something like that?
Something like that. But just constantly rambles, I'm one with the Force, and the Force is with me. And he didn't have any Force abilities. He wasn't like Force sensitive, anything. He just believed in it to make it happen. Still beat the crap out of everyone with just a stick. Like, I'm sorry. Stuff like that is what makes me enjoy Star Wars. The absolute backwards characters that shouldn't be these really amazing characters, yet they become some of the most interesting. Like, I actually enjoyed the more of the newer Star Wars movies, mainly because of one character, and you're going to know exactly who I'm going to say. John Boyega's character, the whole time.
Oh, Finn.
Yeah. Finn, for me, was the clutch of that film because he was a stormtrooper, which is a generic human being forced to be a war guy, barely any training, who had a little bit of PTSD and shock from his first ever war crimes, where he was being soldier for the Empire, and realized, I ain't here for this. I can't do it. And then joins the rebels to just do the exact same thing anyway, but for good reasons.
Yeah.
And
I felt sorry.
I
felt really sorry for Finn. I felt really sorry for Finn, like because I feel like in the Force Awakens, his character was so well developed, and then by the time we got to Rise of Skywalker, he was just the guy who fancied Rey. Oh, that was like what we were supposed to believe.
And that also annoyed me because obviously in the second movie he had that romance with, I think it was Rose, the other pilot.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so you know exactly where I'm going with this. I didn't like the whole fact that Finn had this one romance. That romance was gone because she sacrificed herself. So now we're going back to having a thing for Rey. But mainly backtracking to Bad Batch here, I like we might be getting more clones content because Echo surviving, Echo going with Rex. I like these scenarios of the characters that people don't really get to talk much about, not these big Jedi names, are finally getting so much spotlight. And Bad Batch was a perfect example of how people can enjoy that without needing Jedi.
This is the benefit of like not having a Rogue One ending. Like sometimes it's nice to have an ending like that because like with Echo surviving, it leads the way into like you said, I definitely want to see a Rex and Echo series or something like that might be based around it, where we can see an Echo, a Rex, a Cody come back wherever he is, because we don't know where he is.
This is the thing. We know where Rex ends up because we've watched Star Wars Rebels, but I want to see the in between before he even joins Rebels.
Well, this is it. This is it, right? Because at the start of Rebels, he is in contact with the Empire, is Rex, because I think it's Gregor who tells the Empire that Kanan and Ezra are there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So I want to know what happens between Bad Batch and Rex, like joining the Rebel squad. Like, why is he in contact with the Empire? Because he's very opposed to him at the end of the Bad Batch, and he's freeing clones. He's fighting the good fight. So I want to know how we get there. There's a bunch of things that could happen here, because like, let's just talk about some of the people that we saw in this series. Some of the people that I want to talk about, just because there's some unanswered questions for me.
Yeah, sure. Let's list them off because we'll probably have a lot of the same.
Let's list them off indeed. So I'm going to start with one that he wasn't in it for very long. He was in an episode, but I have a lot of questions about him. And then when I very first started my Star Wars channel on TikTok, it was one of my first videos because the line that he gave always confused me, and that is Cad Bane.
Yeah, I'm glad we went with the Cad Bane route. Yeah.
We see Cad Bane in here. Like, he is one of the most sadistic people in the Clone Wars. He is literally tasked by Palpatine to collect babies, and he knows what goes on with them, and he's still doing it here, collecting babies from Mount Tantis. However, in the Book of Boba Fett, which is the next canonical like time that we see him, one of his first lines to Cobb Vanth was, Boba Fett was a cold-blooded killer who worked for the Empire. And then in another episode of the Book of Boba Fett, he turns around and says to the Pikes, when the Pikes admit to killing the Sand People and blame it on the Nitzel Speedbike gang, he turns around and says to them, I didn't realize the Syndicate was so ruthless. And both of those statements to me, and then this is what I said in the videos, it sounds like he's judging them on their actions. Now, my question is, number one, what leg does he have to stand on to accuse anyone of being a douche? And so, but second of all, like, what has changed his mind in this time? Like, what, like, because like I said, in the Bad Batch, we see him still doing ruthless things. So I want to know what happens to him after this. Like, that's an unanswered question that I'm interested in.
I feel like, and you'll get where I'm going with this because you've recently watched the Fallout series. I feel like Cad Bane and the Ghoul have a lot of similarities of how they're trying to be. They were once normalized guys doing their thing. And I think Cad Bane was that type of guy for a little bit of time, just a bounty hunter who did rightful crimes, but something happened to him to maybe forcefully do things for the Empire, which we've never really seen occur. And don't quote me on it. I haven't really read many Cad Bane books or anything, so I don't know if there is a pre-story to him working with the Empire. But I feel like there might be a case of he could have been blackmailed to pick up these kids. Maybe there's something on Cad Bane's head that the Empire know that no one else knew, and said, if you don't do it, that'll either get leaked or we'll make it happen. Like, there's always that kind of what if with the Empire, because they have such a way of controlling things. Like, we saw that multiple times with a lot of the generals and the admirals. Once they had that info, they were like, cool, you're no longer useful to me, and would just kill people off.
We saw that with Rampart in this very series.
Exactly. That's where I'm going at. Same with Thrawn. As soon as Thrawn knew some of his people and subjects were no longer used to him, he was like, off you go. Bye. You're done. Like, look at in Ahsoka, look at the 2 Siths that he hired. Basically, as soon as they couldn't really get the job done, he didn't really care about them. He was like, yeah, go off. Do what you like. Don't care anymore. Like, my grand plan.
That's true.
There is Cad Bane is definitely one that I'm the same as you, especially with that line of where the doctor was speaking to him when he dropped off the small, I can't remember the furry one's name. It's like the youngest child they dropped off.
Yeah.
Just the interactions back and forth. Like, Cad Bane knew it was bad, but he kind of just shrugged it off and wasn't trying to show emotion. So I don't know.
Like, pretty much like, don't ask questions that you don't want the answer to. Like,
So I feel like the reason he did that is because he's trying to put on a brave in front of the Empire, but he doesn't like what he's doing. Is the energy I kind of got from it. But we'll have to see where that gets explored.
There is a scene that we've not officially seen in canon, but it was a cancelled episode of the Clone Wars. And it's implied that it still happened in the Book of Boba Fett, because obviously Cad Bane and Boba have a history. We see in the Clone Wars that, and in the comics, that Bane was kind of a mentor to Boba. But there is a cancelled episode of the Clone Wars where Bane and Boba have a duel, and that's why Boba Fett's helmet's dinted. Because that dint in Boba's helmet is a shot from Cad Bane. Initially, that's what it used to be in canon. I mean, and it's kind of implied that it still is, but we've not seen it.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'd like to see that. Maybe they explore that with, like, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, let's get a Book of Boba Fett season 2, because that was just more Mandalorian than anything. But like, maybe a proper like deep dive of Boba Fett, like very much like Obi-Wan was. Just call it literally Boba Fett instead of Book of Boba Fett, like a small tale of him. And just
I'd want to see a Bounty Hunters TV show, like set like maybe in the Imperial era. That'd be dope.
Dude, that would be so good, because there are so many other bounty hunters we could literally talk about. And you know, one of my favorites, because she aligns herself with Boba Fett anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like we see like she's quite prevalent like in this era of like Clone Wars / Bad Batch as well.
Yeah, like she actually was looking out for Omega in the end of it, and I was like, cool, she is a bounty hunter with morals. She isn't like your average bounty hunter who's like, oh, payday, yeah, cool, I'll kill them. And
I love Fennec.
I want to see. Yeah, Fennec is like top tier of like the bounty hunters in the Star Wars universe for me.
Yeah, I love it too, dude. Like Fennec. Like I said, I'd love to see more content from Fennec. And if it takes getting a Boba Fett season 2, then I'm down for it.
Yeah, or a Fennec season, you know.
Or a Fennec season, yeah. Like I said, that Bounty Hunter TV show. But there is another person who I would like to see have her own TV show, or her own like art in a TV show, because I think there's a lot there. There was a book literally made on her and another amazing character, and that's Ventress.
Yeah,
I was quite surprised that we didn't see Ventress like pop up again in the Bad Batch after that episode. I was disappointed? Yeah, but I wasn't. I was fine with it. Like the main thing was she isn't dead, so I'm happy about that. She had hair. She looked exactly how they described her in the Dark Disciple book, which is cool. And if
That's
anyone has
what
never,
I like they kept to the same continuity. They didn't be like, oh, we're worried people are not going to know she's Ventress, so we're going to have to do original Ventress look where she's bold. They were like, no, Dark Disciple
yeah,
look. And I was
I
happy
like
with
the I like the fact that they brought her back, and it's fully believable that she would survive. Not many people
Yeah.
just died from force lightning, so like, I mean, and also she's a Night Sister, so you know they brought people back from the
Which a lot of
relative.
people didn't realize, which I was like, if you literally look at her skin very closely at the top, you could see the Night Sister in like tattoo engravings near her forehead and stuff. Like,
Yeah, that might suggest that she's got Night Sister magic keeping her alive, which is interesting.
Ventress is one of my all-time favorite Siths. That was involved when she was actually a Sith and like following Dooku and everything. It was in the non-canon one. I don't know if you remember this Star Wars, the 2D one they did for a while, like 2008's one.
Yeah,
They had Anakin and her had this doll in the rain at like top of a tower, and it was just like the coolest fight scene I've seen in like animation and like Star Wars content. And then from that point on, I was like, yo, Ventress for me is like such an awesome character. I went and looked into Ventress a lot more after that episode.
Ventress is one of those characters where like I'm glad that they're possibly doing more with her, because like this is a person who dueled Obi-Wan and Anakin at the same time on multiple different occasions in the Clone Wars. Like there's so much there to do there. Yeah,
and she held her own, like literally nearly. I swear she nearly killed Obi-Wan twice until Anakin literally stepped in to even the odds.
Yeah, I mean, even Grievous didn't want to mess with her. Like, she pretty much made Grievous back down on Dathomir. Like, the only reason she backed down is because of the droids came and like stopped her from fighting Grievous. But with Ventress, like going back to the point, I really want to see, because obviously Quinlan Voss is still alive. Obi-Wan suggests that Quinlan Voss is helping the path, you know, for Jedi to escape. So I'm assuming Ventress is also helping. I'd love to see an Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2, or just a Ventress or a Ventress or a Quinlan Voss season. I would absolutely love that. Dark Disciple is one of my favorite Star Wars books of all time. I think it's such a great story. Literally revitalized the character of Asajj Ventress, like, because in my mind, I don't think she had a very satisfying ending in the Clone Wars TV show. Like, she told Anakin about Barriss, and then that was the last time that we saw her. So it was great to see that we actually had a story in audio form and in book form about Ventress. And it's great to see her back in the Bad Batch. So more Ventress content, please, in whatever sort of form. But yeah, I was happy that they brought her back for it. I saw a lot of people confused as like, you know, how they brought her back, and it's like it's just Star Wars, okay?
It just makes sense, yeah.
It's Star Wars, okay? Just be happy that she's alive. We know that
we've thought characters were dead for years. People thought Darth Maul died after Phantom Menace, yet everyone screamed in joy when they saw him in the Clone Wars. Like, come on now.
Yeah, and if anyone was going to be dead, it was him. He got chopped in half and fell down a bottomless pit. Like, come on. If you can't sit there and go, oh, I'm fine with Maul being alive due to those circumstances, but Asajj gets hit with a bit of lightning. Oh no, she's definitely dead. And to bring her back, it's ridiculous. It's like, come on, dude. Like Luke Skywalker got like force lightning by Palpatine for about 3 minutes before Darth Vader was like, oh, actually, I'll help.
Oh yeah, like, oh, not my son. Like, took him that fucking long to realize, oh shit, my son's dying.
Like the same force lightning that essentially nearly disintegrated Mace Windu, but everyone's like, you know, oh yeah. So
I think it gets weaker with age. Hence why Palpatine was like, "Fuck all."
Yeah, exactly. There was someone else. There was someone else in the Bad Batch TV show. Before we move on to talking about Tales of the Empire,
I've got a couple of other people as well that was seen that you haven't mentioned yet. So
okay. One other person that I think we should talk about is Cody. Yeah. We didn't see Cody in this season, which was surprising. I was honestly very shocked that we did not see Cody, because it was left very open-ended in season 2 when he went AWOL. I thought I love the conversation that him and Crosshair had at the end of that episode. And then when Rampart tells Crosshair that Cody went AWOL, that was the last time we heard about him. So I was a little bit confused as to where he went, because I thought for sure that he was going to be teaming up with Rex. In that episode where the CX trooper.
I think he will at some point, but I also had concerns he's probably being arrested on an off planet, like far out planet, like someone caught him, or he's hiding low because he's around near close to a lot more of the Empire than we thought he would be. Which is where I was going to lead into this, is Rex saying he got contacts from the Empire. What's not say Cody double agent for a little bit? And that's
it's true.
Like, there's several things. Cody is definitely a big one for me. Wolf is the other one I was going to mention. I want to see a lot more of. Obviously, we saw he survived the fight with all the are they XC or
CX?
CX. I knew it was something like that. Those advanced clones, he luckily survived that alongside Rex. So I want to see Wolf's progression with Rex's team now, because obviously he was like working with the Empire, and Rex convinced him, hey, don't do what they're doing. Like, genuinely, like, let us slide and we'll sort it. And then Wolf was like, damn, Rex is talking a lot of facts here. I need to start listening. And then joined up with him. So I'm like, I want to see that Wolf progression, because I love Wolf's armor. I love a lot of his character dynamic as well, of being this. I was very loyal. Soldiers follow orders, to then know his higher up official commander, which was Rex at the time, was like, dude, this ain't the way. He was like, wow, screw my soldier side. I'm following Rex now. I want more of that. Another one for me, I don't know how much we can get away with it, but I want, I can never remember her name, the green alien that sorts out the Bad Batch for a lot of the missions.
Oh, Senator. Sid. You know about Sid?
Sid. There we go, Sid. I knew it was something generic. I was about to call her Sydney, and I'm like, no, I swear it's shorter than that.
I was under the impression
Sid across the board.
I was under the impression that it was implied that she was murdered by one of the CX troopers.
No. So this was the thing. I looked into what you were saying there, and no, basically, the Bad Batch kind of cut off communication with her because of the shady shit she started doing towards the end. And then from how that sounded, it sounded like she planned that, because her missions, the deals she was doing with people, got found out. So she faked to death to hop away.
Right, okay. Because I remember there was a scene.
Anyway.
I remember there was a scene from this season where one of the CX troopers said that he interrogated a Trandoshan for the information.
Yeah,
and I was like, well, the only Trandoshan I could think of is Sid. And I was like,
yeah. So that's the thing. I think they could have interrogated her, but I don't think they killed her. I think they got the information out of her. Said they killed her so she could get out. I think she probably bargained, I'll give you the info if you let me run through, because I know how Sid is like. Sid is very good at negotiating with people. So I think she would have done that type of deal of, I can give you everything. I can tell you where they were last were. The ship, the coordinates, all of this. I can give you receipt on receipt of everything I've done with the Bad Batch. Just let me go. And I think that's what's occurred there. And she's faked her like death scenario. That's how I've took it, but I could be very wrong. But I would.
No, I could see it. I could see it. I could totally see that. I mean, I would definitely want to see more of her if she's still alive. Is there anyone else?
I just liked how Sid interacted with the Bad Batch and everyone else in the Star Wars universe. Like, yeah, I could do this for you, but what's in it for me? Because that's very real. That's like the most real Star Wars can get, because nothing comes for free in the Star Wars universe. Like, you give certain info, the Empire's going to find out, or the Republicans want to find out. You want to do a dodgy deal? Okay, cool. You're going to have to get through this planet's barrier, this currency, these guards, oh, you can't park here because your ship is illegal in this planet. Like stuff like that is crazy interesting, and I love that she would find every loophole for the Bad Batch to do what they did without them getting found for so long. I want that to be explored more with other like bounty hunters, or like I just love like Din Djarin gets like a mission of someone in a tavern, and she looks a bit older, but it's Sid. I'd love to see like that as an interaction at some point. Just them
Just
two
like a little Easter egg put in there. Yeah.
yeah. Because they did that with the last season of Mandalorian with the claw mark stormtrooper helmet, which is the Ewok planet, like the virus one that they had.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that horror book that they did. You know
yeah.
Cool.
I know what you're talking about. I mean, we saw like little Easter eggs anyway in the Mando. We saw Zeb in the Rebel cantina.
That was really cool. I really liked seeing Zeb there.
I was so hyped.
Other than that, I can't really think of anyone else. Just a lot more of the clones. I want to see Echo as well. Like I want to see that Echo as a clone, like rebuilding the clone reinforcement army to help the rebels. I really want to see how Echo is involved in that.
I'm just going to go back to a point that I forgot to say before when we were talking about Crosshair. I loved the fact that his hand was kind of a metaphor. A metaphor and the symbolism to how he grew in this season. He was shaky and he had the trauma, but once it was cut off, it kind of like his trauma was left behind and he was able to let go. Literally of what happened to him, his PTSD. I thought that was beautiful, and the fact that we know that they're all still alive because of that epilogue scene, I'm happy to see that.
Yeah,
and as we know, like Omega ages slower than the other members of the clones. I think that's how it works anyway. And I think we could probably So I think we could probably see her in the next Mandalorian season, maybe, or the next Ahsoka season, because we talk about Project Necromancer. Omega is still alive, and right now she's still only like the only one that we know of who has the viable blood to transfer the M count for Palpatine.
Yeah.
So like she's got to figure into it somehow.
But this was where my other part comes in. There could be other clones that have been taken that fit that midichlorian. I don't want to put it out there, but Cody could potentially be one.
He could be. Maybe that's why he's being held.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Like Cody was arguably one of the strongest minded, very willing and loyal clones. Arguably a lot of people's favorite clone in history. So him being one of the other people that could do Project Necromancer isn't out of the realm of possibility, because all it needs is a clone that has high enough midichlorians. And we've very quickly realized that's possible in any of them. Like, I know they said, like, our midichlorians don't transfer across DNA, but it's like, okay, but with the amount you produced of the clones, and it only took the first 6 clones that you officially made, the first one had a midichlorian count. Interesting that. So there is a 1 in 6 in every single clone you make that potentially had one. You just didn't find them, is what my logic is in that.
I find it interesting that they say that clones can't be force sensitive, but obviously we've got Omega there. But in the very first season, Tech is talking about how there was a clone called Omega that we know of, and then another one called Alpha, who is also known as Boba Fett. So is it possible that he's got the same?
That's another thing I was thinking, because like obviously all the clones were made from the DNA of Boba Fett, being Clone Alpha, and I think the medical.
That's what I mean. Like that, he was the only unaltered clone, because obviously Django was the host, but Django asked for a original. He asked for an unaltered clone to like essentially be his son. So I thought that was quite interesting that they brought that up. But like I said, is there anything else you want to say about the Bad Batch before we move on?
I'm sad it's gone. It filled my very binge watching habits to the best. and I'm excited for the future of more clone content. But it's weird to think we now have no original trilogy content anymore, like no clone content anymore.
I know that they've essentially kind of wrapped it up, right?
Yeah, like we're done. They've wrapped it up, put it in a nice little bow and gone by. Even like Tales of the Empire, that's like before the clones and after the clones. They don't even really speak about them. The most we kind of get is Grievous doing the attack in the first episode, because that's when we know Grievous was on his hunts around the Clone Wars period.
Literally, I think the only clones that we see in Tales of the Empire is for like 4 seconds in the Barriss first episode, where they say, "Be thankful you're not a Jedi anymore."
Yeah, literally, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like that's all we get, and I'm like, yeah, this is like well after. This is like clones that have realigned themselves with the Empire. This is in between Bad Batch, but also after Bad Batch as well. Like Tales of the Empire is in that very weird, like timey-wimey, like how Tales of the Jedi was, how they skipped like into different parts, like Qui-Gon being in the beginning, and then also showing Dooku speaking to Qui-Gon. So it was like, cool, that's Phantom Menace. To then we know, oh, Qui-Gon's now dead. So we know, oh shit, that's end of Phantom Menace now. Like they jump in and out of the timeline. But yeah, it's cool. I'm happy with everything Bad Batch did. Yeah, just give me more clone content, and I'll always be happy. Clone era, as you know, is one of my favorite Star Wars eras of all time.
Oh, same, dude. Same. 100%. I agree with that. Right. Moving on to the next TV show that we can talk about here. Tales of the Empire. Oh,
yeah.
This was unbelievable. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. The 2 arcs that they told in the show was so good. Just some of the highlights that I want to bring up. Grievous, yes, please.
Yes,
more Grievous. I love.
Just how they introed him of, oh, you're fighting against Night Sisters, and she's got the 2 daggers, and Grievous just looks at her, slams the 2 lightsabers down, and he's like, oh wait, but there's more. Gets the other 2 arms, and then freaking spins them at her. I was like, yo, this man don't care. It's on site.
Yo, my guy did like an Arya Stark on this girl though.
Yeah, literally.
Literally used his 3rd arm to just stab this woman. I was like, yo.
It's the way he laughed at her after he did it. It was like he just menacingly laughed, like, yeah, bitch, what you gonna do? The fact I got 4 arms and you only had 2.
No, Grievous is scary though, dude, because obviously they're fighting all the droids and stuff, and all of a sudden a lightsaber just shoots through this woman's chest, and then she falls over, and it's Grievous's mask behind her, and I'm just like, oh, let's go.
When they showed that of Grievous's silhouette coming up, I was like, yeah, okay, they've started it right. They've started it absolutely right.
I love Grievous, man. I think he's such an underutilized character.
Yeah.
He's one of those characters for me where he got a lot of screen time and it was great, and I love Grievous, but I want to see more of Grievous, dude. I want to see what you see in the comic books, where when he's back on Kalish, when how Dooku and Palpatine recruited him, they crashed that ship intentionally to give him a cybernetic body and everything. I want to see more of Grievous. The more of Grievous, the better, because that character, that guy, the way he walks, the way when he's on all 4s and he clinks around like a spider, that is so creepy. But
for me, it's the way he talks as well. He has that. I know I'm now invincible with this mechanical machine. I've got so many battle options you wouldn't even think as a normal Jedi or a Sith. I've got 4 arms. I've got multiple lightsabers. I can literally rotate my arm like I'm an Inquisitor on command.
Dude,
y'all have to make lightsabers to do that. No, my arm does it for me. Grievous just on that shit.
The way he quoted Palpatine as well, he was like, wipe them out, all of them. I was like, ooh! Come on, Grievous, dude.
The way it hit as well, because he looked at all the droidicas reloading, and he was like, just God. I was like, oh, so sick.
What I loved about I love the implementation of Grievous into this episode as well, because it actually kind of feeds a lot into Morgan Elsbeth's story, where she kind of has PTSD from a world getting destroyed, but whenever she thinks about it, she can hear Grievous's laugh. Like he is like kind of like the catalyst for her PTSD. I thought that was so cool. I also like seeing the aftermath of that Clone Wars episode. Obviously when they just destroy Dathomir pretty much. But then you see kind of the aftermath of it, where like the droids are still patrolling, looking for more Night Sisters just in case they escaped. I thought that was dope.
Yeah.
The implementation of the mountain clan.
Yeah,
that's
Mountain
cool
Clan,
as hell.
I liked that. I also liked how the Mountain Sister was like, I'm sorry you've become this way, because I could see the future of how it's turning out. And the Mountain Sister was not wrong. She literally stated it. She knew she was going to go on a path of vengeance, a path of anger, and it was so visible in the character. You were just like, oh, we're going there now.
Yeah.
Cool to see her just. I know she kind of said it out of anger herself because of her daughter passing, but it was also very much a harsh truth that was needed to be said to her to try and
revenge.
It.
There was only one end to a story, and like we saw it with Morgan in Ahsoka, she died.
Yeah.
Well, that's where revenge took her. But what I will say about the Mountain Clan is teleportation. The fuck?
Yeah, that was crazy. I was
like forced teleportation. We've only seen, I believe we've only seen these guys once as well. And I think it's from like a non-canon novel. Don't quote me on this properly because I've only read it a little bit. It's either a non-canon novel or a comic book. And it was the mountain people that came into contact with Princess Leia. I think it was.
I think that's the Leia comic franchise that they did for a little bit. Like, I think it was the Star Wars Legend content for Leia, where
right, yeah.
There was one of them where Leia was able to use a lightsaber as well, and that's not canonized either.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So I think this is the first time that we've actually got them in canon.
Yeah, this is really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was really, really cool that we got to see that because we talk about the witches of Dathomir, like the Night Sisters they use the dark side to use their magic, but they don't let the dark side consume them or overtake them, so they're able to touch the dark side without letting it consume them. So they're not actually Sith, or like they're not actually they're able to use.
They embrace an unnatural force that isn't the Force, because obviously the dark side has its own qualities and factors, but it has all the same principles as the Force. And as you said rightfully there, it isn't they're tempted by temptation, or they're not like
they're able to use it as a tool.
They use it as a tool, like an enhancement. They don't use it as I need this power, like a greed behind it. It's no, this comes natural to us.
Well, you can see that because I mean, we're talking about Night Sisters. I'll bring up the most obvious one, Ventress. We saw that Ventress uses the dark side, but without letting it consume it. Like even in the Bad Batch, where she calmed that creature down, that Leviathan down by reaching out to it, but she still is a dark side user essentially. So I thought that was cool. But at the same time, the Mountain Clan used the light side. Like they touched the light side for their magic. So I thought that was dope. That was a great episode. Moving on to the second episode of Tales, where we see Morgan is now on Corvus and she's controlling the population. What I will say about this episode is I love the tie-in, and it ties up a nice little neat knot as to where Thrawn got the idea for the advanced TIE defenders. Like literally the blueprints for it were in the background at the very first bit. The parallel, by the way, of the start of this episode where you see the Star Destroyer coming over like that is exactly how the Bad Batch ended, where Tarkin saw Tantis. Wild theory for me. I think the reason why they tied that in, and it's just a little subtle, hey, if you're paying attention, who else is in this episode? I think they tied that in because I think that Thrawn is going to rediscover Tantis in Ahsoka season 2.
I think that's going to happen as well.
Yeah.
Especially because of that. The way Bad Batch really reinforced Project Necromancer, the way Mandalorian tried to start teasing another variation of Necromancer with Moff Gideon and him trying to do it, like make clone variations of himself. I can't unsee that Thrawn would do that as well.
In Heir to the Empire, the non-canon trilogy from the 90s, Thrawn was obviously liked using clones to fill up his army.
Because clones were more efficient than any stormtrooper would be, because clones listen to commands.
And he was right. And they were more efficient. They were better trained. And I really think that when it comes to Thrawn, in this episode, I love how he was introduced, and I love how it adds a little bit of backstory to his to his rebels ideology. I also love the fact that Rook was there, animated in Clone Wars style instead of Rebel style. He looked like a beast. I love Rook. If you didn't know, by the way, didn't have any lines in this. In this episode, but he did grunts, had grunts and everything, voiced by Warwick Davis. So
wow,
yeah. So Warwick Davis again in another Star Wars piece of media.
He's finding his way in.
Yeah, somehow. But what I loved about Thrawn in this episode was he says, and it's true, the Empire are willing to throw bodies basically at a problem at the sacrifice of profits. So basically, they'd rather make profits than make efficient TIE fighters.
I love that line of it's not cost effective. They'd rather pay in body count than actual money count. Yeah.
And he said eventually this will lead to a disillusioned military, and he was correct. Because a lot of the stormtroopers, there was a lot of them, there was a lot of numbers, but they couldn't shoot the side of a bantha, as I believe Cod Vance said.
And they just couldn't shoot for shit.
Exactly. And the irony is, you've got a situation here where and Tarkin is the problem here. Like, he's very cool. Tarkin is very intelligent, and he's the reason why he's at the very top of the Empire. But not only does he do in Bad Batch, where he says transfer all the funds from Project Necromancer to Project Stardust, which is the Death Star. He also does it in Rebels when the TIE Fighter factory refinery was destroyed, and he says transfer all the funds to Project Stardust. The irony is that Project Stardust, aka the Death Star, was destroyed by tiny ships that was able to penetrate a large defense.
Yeah.
If the TIE defenders were there, the rebels would have lost.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So it's in the end, it kind of shows you that Thrawn was correct about it. That Thrawn was right about the whole thing. Like, it would lead to a disillusioned military, and the Empire will begin to crumble, and it did.
There's still there? Yeah. I'm just trying to think of what else that there was. There was a lot to it that Thrawn said that just really captured me in that moment of he's thinking. Like how I like my analogies. I really felt he was visually doing a chess game of me talking to her leads to this, and this option. Him offering a small part of his army, knowing a Night Sister can help him out, has brought us full circle to what happens in Ahsoka. Like, one small conversation led us all that way. And like, as you said there, Thrawn doesn't care what the rest of the Empire does, as long as it doesn't affect his game plan and he has his own funds, his own army. Like, the way he just turned around and those 3 ships fly in, and he's just like, that's just part of my army.
I like the he gets and I don't know if you noticed as well, where he's actually not Grand Admiral Thrawn yet in this show.
He was just Admiral Thrawn. Yeah, I loved that, because I was like, okay, that's pretty cool type stuff.
So in the timeline, I believe this takes place just before the second book in the Thrawn trilogy, because I believe he's made a Grand Admiral in the second book, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Like in the Thrawn alliances. So I thought that was quite interesting. What I will say is maybe we're going to be getting a little bit of a hint in Ahsoka season 2 of Thrawn's real goal here. Because in the Thrawn trilogy, we find out that the reason why he is sent to the Empire, not only because he's in exile, but because of the Grisk and like because of like what's going on in the unknown regions of space. Like that's why he wanted to join the Empire, to basically capitalize on an army, like to defend the rest of Chiss space, to get an ally from the Empire. But with Thrawn, he's always thinking like 3 steps ahead. Like
he really
he knew.
is.
I love the fact that we saw Captain Pelion in this episode as well.
Yeah.
I thought it was dope, like the little that little tie-in, not just with the Thrawn trilogy, but also with the fact that he is in the Mandalorian season 3 with Pelion saying, the return of Grand Admiral Thrawn will herald the return of our military, basically. And I love that. I thought it was so good that we saw Thrawn, dude.
It's a full circle thing. Like as I said, like the lead up to Ahsoka. Now the fact we know Mandalorian being involved as well. Like as you rightfully said, the captain getting pulled in. Like as soon as we saw that, I was like, right, cool. So the bigger implications here now of what the fuck is going to happen with the new seasons we're going to get, because damn, we've now had jigsaw pieces thrown at us being like, hey, here's this little cool Easter egg thing. Yeah, that's the same guy who hyped up Thrawn's return in Mando. So you're going to pay more attention to him now in Tales of the Empire because you're sure as hell going to need to. It's just so sick
exactly.
that they're doing that. Like, especially if you like, for us, it's a bit easier because obviously we know the book contents, the comic contents. But like for the fans that are only picking it up from TV content, it's a great way of dropping those little nuggets of information.
Exactly. It's a great way of tying it all together. And what I will say about the Mandalorian season 4 is that takes place after Ahsoka season 1. So Ahsoka is trapped in the other galaxy, but Thrawn is back in the known galaxy. So we're going to be seeing Mando run into Thrawn's fleet, like the 6th fleet. Is that going to be a problem for him? Like obviously, like the Chimera is back. Like the Night Sisters. Like the last time we saw Thrawn, it was on. He was going to Dathomir. I am so excited to see what they're going to be doing with Thrawn. And I just love the implementation of Morgan Elsbeth. Like we now know why she is so loyal to Thrawn. Even skipping towards episode 3, after the New Republic come to the village. The tie-in here is unbelievable as well, where she burns the forest, which explains why the forest looks so charred in the Mandalorian season 2, where the Mando goes and sees Ahsoka. It also explains how Ahsoka knows that Morgan Elsbeth is there, because the distress signal was Bo-Katan on the distress signal, which also explains how Bo-Katan knew that Ahsoka was on Corvus. It ties it all in so beautifully. It's so good. That last episode of the trio was so good.
I also loved that the spear was always consistent as well. She always had that Beskar-esque spear, any situation. Yep. I was like, cool. I am so glad they kept that as like this authority figure of carrying this very powerful spear. I don't need a lightsaber. I don't need a dagger. I don't need these Night Sister blades. It's just a simplistic, very refined spear, but it has so much symbolism. I love just getting to see that. And I think a lot of the later episodes, they really play into this symbolism as well. From having this Jedi be completely broken, worn down, have the Empire literally be so in her ear to turn her to this Sith, to then see it still full circle and she's still trying to guide others who rightfully should be Siths, try and look to the light. Like, that to me was so huge, because it's like, no matter how much this person was broken, they could still find the goodness in people. and I loved that symbolism through her journey. Like, as
Wait,
you wrote,
are we talking about Barris now?
yeah,
Right, okay.
that's what I like. I loved how they did symbolism, like very simple with the spear, but I also love how with Beerus, her whole journey of being this, she was this pure Jedi of light. She was one of these very strong-minded young apprentices, going to be arguably one of the strongest Jedis, be forced to snuff out the light, listen to the Empire, force herself to survive to be a Sith, to then still go full circle, try and find the light in other people who rightfully should be Siths. I love all of that symbolism throughout her whole arc. I thought that was arguably some of the best stuff. Like, I haven't seen the finale scene properly. Like, as I said to you, like, I'm halfway through her arc right now. I did get spoiled of seeing where she is just dodging the attacks and just trying to talk it out. And I love
so
that.
good, so good, dude. She is literally like, ironically enough, she is kind of dressed like one of the Mountain Clan from the first arc of Tales of the Empire, like in the light clothes. She's also ironically dressed like Ahsoka when Ahsoka changes to the white robes. And then in that last episode,
I'm glad you noticed that, because that was what I meant by like symbolisms and stuff. She came in like this pure light Jedi.
Yeah. What I will say as well is that kind of ties into the Acolyte, but we'll talk about it a little bit later. Like, because the Acolyte used to, like, in the High Republic, Jedi used to wear white and gold robes. But what I will say about Barris is, and no spoilers, dude. She says to, actually, spoilers. I'm about to spoil it. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I'm gonna be literally watching it the next couple of days anyway, so it's fine.
Okay, so essentially, like, you know, that family that she rescues and says, like, you know, to give them a head start going into the cave. She says, take my ship. I'm going to send you to an old friend. Obviously Ahsoka. Like, it's Ahsoka. So at some point, that those two have reconnected. I would like to think that Ahsoka somehow helped to redeem herself a little bit more. I would also like to think that maybe in Ahsoka season 2, we're going to be getting some flashbacks with Barris. I'd love to see a live action Barris.
That'd be cool.
I think that would be dope, and I think this is
fitting as well. I think it would be fitting to have that extra push for Ahsoka, because Ahsoka's going through her own variation of like very dark times, being trapped on a completely different planet.
Well, I'll put it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I'm just gonna have to fill you in a little bit on like the 5th episode, because I've not seen the 5th episode.
Yeah, that's where I'm not at yet.
So obviously you've seen her become an Inquisitor, and she met Darth Vader and everything. Yeah, you've seen that.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's where I just finished up to.
So that's the 4th episode. In the 5th episode, she's an Inquisitor, and one of her missions is to go to this planet to hunt for Jedis. That Lynn, who she knows, who recruited her in episode 4, one of the sisters now, they both go to a village and they ask where the Jedis are. Barris takes a different route, takes off a helmet and speaks to this child, like, you know, do you know where they are? Tell us the truth, you know, stuff like that, very nicely. Lynn is like on the other side, you know, threatening the people, saying, you know, the Jedi can control your minds, like, we've tried to protect you, etc.
We're obviously trying to save you.
So the kid opens up to Barris, which obviously makes the rest of the village liars. So as Barris is about to leave, Lynn turns around and massacres the whole village. Which obviously is the first. Yeah, dude. So so that first of all makes Barris like, question: is this really for me? They go up into the mountains. They find the Jedi. Lynn gets thrown down, so she's not part of the fight for a little while. Barris is fighting this Jedi, saying, you know, just surrender, come back with me, etc. You must be tired of running. She puts a lightsaber away, and the Jedi also goes, yeah, I am. I'm so tired. You know, I can't do this anymore. He puts his lightsaber down, looking like he's going to surrender. Lynn stabs him in the back.
Lynn jumps up, freaking I can see that. That's
so Barris is like, you know, he was about to surrender. Why did you do that? He's still alive. We can get him to the ship. And Lynn's like, nah, there's no point in doing that. Like, there's no need to do that. The Jedi are all scum. They need to be dealt with. And then as Lynn is walking away, Barriss turns around and goes, "Then you have one more Jedi to deal with." And then she turns on her lightsaber, and as Lynn is about to turn around and fight her, she force pushes her off this mountain, dude.
Fuck yeah.
So obviously you think that Lynn's dead. So when you get to episode 6, Lynn is hunting that family that Barriss is trying to help. So obviously Lynn's like, after all this time, I run into you and I'm not even looking for you. And then obviously the lightsaber fight happens. She gets lost in the cave. Barriss tries to help her. She accidentally stabs Barriss. It's a beautiful, beautiful story arc for Barriss. And I've seen a lot of people online saying, "Oh, I can't believe she died. What was the point in bringing her back just to kill her?" Not everyone has to survive.
Yeah.
Like, that's a fine. It's fine if they die. Was I sad? Yes, I was. But it was a great ending to Barriss's story. She was accused of like bombing the temple because she did. She was right at the lowest of lows. She didn't know where to go. She accepted to be an inquisitor because that was the only path open to her. She realized that even though that she hated what the Jedi stood for, it's better than whatever the hell is going on here. She turns back to help people in a way where the Jedi didn't. That she believed where the Jedi had turned their back on the normal people just to fight for a war in favor of the dark side. That's exactly what she said. Like, the Jedi have become an army for the dark side, which in essence she was right. They did. They were fighting for the dark side. So she turns around and says, "I'm going to help people the way I wanted to help people in the first place when I was a Jedi. This is why I became a Jedi." And she sacrifices herself for her beliefs, for the people who she is trying to save, and in the process redeems the bad guy of her story arc.
Yeah.
What more could you ask for? That's Star Wars. That is literally Star Wars in 3 episodes right there.
This is the thing that upsets me with a lot of people critiquing these type of storylines within Star Wars. You had a whole war happen in Order 66. Do you know how many Jedis were literally massacred in that whole situation?
Thousands.
Like, so many people have a specific favorite Jedi, and their favorite Jedi died, and we didn't get their stories. We didn't get how it happened to them. You can't cry about someone being brought back to have a great finishing story, have their story portrayed and finally like a full chapter closed book, and then be like, "Oh, why bring it back? Okay, let's just bring every Jedi that died in Order 66 then, because we don't know how their story ended." No, that's not the point. Star Wars has this symbolic whole thing of people die for their causes. People, like, death matters in Star Wars. Literally, Star Wars is based upon the Bushido principles of samurais. They die by the code of the blade. Literally every lightsaber style is based on a martial arts style that swordsmen use, because they die by the sword. They die by the code they took when they took up a lightsaber. Hence why you had apprentices having the plaits. People kind of forget about those. It's symbolic that they have finally grown. The plaits are to symbol the lessons they learn, and that bonds them to the Force. Once the plait is cut, it is because they are a Jedi Master and they have created their own new bond with the Force.
Like, dude, you've summed it up perfectly there. And speaking of summing things up, I like the fact that we finally got answers to what happened to Barriss.
Oh,
like,
yeah, 100%. We needed
she was one of the most open-ended things of the Clone Wars, because we don't know what happened to her, because the Clone Wars was cancelled, and then they didn't really cover a story in the revitalized new season. But like, I always wondered what happened to Barriss, and as soon as I saw her in the Tales of the Empire trailer, dude, I was so happy. I was so happy that we was finally
I was
getting
happy seeing everything in the Tales of the Empire trailer because, like,
for real, dude. Like,
it was
honestly,
arguably one of the best. It's arguably one of the best Star Wars animated content we've had, and that's not just because of a lot of the stuff I like for the Empire side. Like, I very much enjoy what the Empire storylines give because it's a very much a darker Star Wars, and I like the darker fantasy stories. But in general, like Tales of the Empire has great story arcs, great symbolism, gives that full circle of beginning, middle, and end in a short, what, 6, 7 episodes max? Like,
less than an hour for 6 episodes. Yeah, like
exactly.
yeah,
Like, you could consume most of it, like, pretty damn quick. The only reason it's taken me so long to watch it is because I like taking notes. I like mentally catching things, like, so we can have these conversations. I sit down and I literally theorize why they do this or why they do that.
yeah. And what I will say about this this season as well, and again going back to the death of Barris, it it makes sense that she passed away. And what I will say is, if she didn't, it kind of undermines Order 66 for one. It throws into question the continuity because at this point, like Order 66 was supposed to have killed 90% of the Jedi, like 99% of the Jedi. You can't just have Jedi popping up everywhere. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if there was all these Jedi still around, dude, where were they? Why weren't they fighting for the Rebel Alliance? It doesn't make sense. Like, so yes, she had to die because it wouldn't make sense. Because if she was alive, where was she in Rebels?
Yeah.
Where was she in Andor? Where was she in Rogue One? Where was she? So people have got to think about that as well.
Bro, the whole scene in Obi-Wan Kenobi of finding out another Jedi has been alive this whole time, saving other younglings and saving other Jedi apprentices, would fall on flat ears if you bring her back out of nowhere and then we just be like, oh yeah, she survived the whole time. She just did nothing. Like, that ruins, as you rightfully said, Order 66. It ruins that. And then, as I said, it ruins that whole episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi where it's like, oh my god, wait, this Jedi's been alive this long? Like, that hits hard. You
I agree.
Can't do that. You can't just be like, I get people being sad, a character they've just been introduced to, because, as I said, it's not everyone knows all the content, probably hasn't watched Clone Wars, picking up Tales of the Empire on the back end of either finishing Bad Batch or, watching other Star Wars shows and trying to give Tales of the Empire a chance. I understand if it's your first introduction to the character and then the character dies, but in the bigger narrative of things, those type of Jedis die for the biggest reasons going forward. Their sacrifices aren't in vain at all.
She knew she was going to sacrifice as well, dude, because she sent that family away on her transport. And she says there's no need to come back for me. She knew what was going to happen, but she's so zen in this episode. Dude, there's 2 lines where Lynn was saying to her "You're a traitor. You'll never understand." And Barris goes, "No, Lynn, I don't understand." And when Barris tells her not to go into the cave because you'll get lost and you don't know the path, and Lynn turns around and goes, "Fear is my ally, not yours." And Barris turns around and goes, "You choose your allies poorly." And I was just like, "Oh, you bad bitch! You such a badass bitch."
A hard line, yeah.
Honestly, such a hard line, dude. And then at the same time, she's just dodging with her arms behind her back.
I saw the dodging scenes, and I was like, "Okay, this season finale is gonna go hard."
Oh, it was so good, man. And as when she gets stabbed, Barris, the first thing she says is, "I forgive you."
Yeah, that was what I got spoiled on. So that was literally So I opened my TikTok and I was like, "Oh, I shouldn't get spoiled on anything." Scrolling, last thing I see is someone posted the freaking season finale. I'm like, "God damn it, no!" And then I go open my Twitter and stuff, and then I freaking read the episode synopsis as well because that lands on my Twitter. So I'm like, great, cool. It's
Oh,
how we
dude,
thought, all day.
watch it as soon as possible. Like, because no
yeah.
matter how many spoilers you get, it's so good. It's really good, and it's such a
Yeah.
nice little series to like finish on until we get the Acolyte in a month. Oh my
Yeah.
God!
It's hard
Speaking,
to wait that long for me.
oh, speaking of the Acolyte, should we just get into a little bit of Acolyte chat
Yeah.
just to
I was
finish
gonna
the pod?
say we've done quite a lot. We could get quickly into Acolyte, a little bit of Star Wars Outlaws, and then we can wrap up.
So I want to talk about Acolyte just as a couple of because I am. How much have you read of like the High Republic era?
A lot. Knights of the Old Republic is one of my all-time favorite games they ever did. So
Oh no,
Republic,
there's that era, but like, have you been reading the High Republic era, like like the Nihil
that's
and
what
stuff?
I'm saying. Like the Republic eras, so Knights of the Old Republic, High Republics, all of that are some of the
Right.
most
Okay.
enjoyable Star Wars I like, because this is like, I think it's like 500, 600 years before Phantom Menace. Acolyte is going to be set.
Oh no, dude! Like it's a lot closer. So like,
Okay.
yeah. So phase two of the High Republic takes place about 300 to 250 years before the Phantom Menace. Phase one, with the Nihil, takes place about 150 years to 90 years, I believe, or something like that, before the Phantom Menace. The Acolyte is taking place about 75 to 80 years before the Phantom Menace. So the Nihil have just been. I mean, we know about this. Like, it's not a spoiler. I mean, we haven't had the last novel yet, but this isn't a spoiler because we get told about it in like it's like a Tales of the Empire from a certain point of view kind of thing. I can't remember where it was, but the Nihil do eventually get destroyed. I mean, again, it's not,
we know about that.
Yeah, it's not a spoiler, mainly just because, you know, if they hadn't been destroyed, where were they in the Phantom Menace?
Exactly.
I love the Nihil. I think they're great, but this takes place a little bit after they've been destroyed. However, there's a group. I don't know if you've been watching Phase 2. Like I said, I'll listen to Phase 2. But you know the Path of the Open Hand. Do you know who they are?
Yes, because that's one of the main paths they start teaching a lot of the new people, and it's what's going to be the focus of. So I'm pretty sure the reason Acolyte said it's going to be martial art heavy is because of that.
Well, the Path of the Open Hand became the Nihil.
Yeah,
or like a large sector of them became the Nihil. But there's some evidence in the trailer that I've seen where the way the path are described, there's still some out there. In the Acolyte, because there's some people with Facebook, because not all of the Path of the Open Hand became Nihil. It was just a large sector of them. But what I will say this to you is, I think if we're following continuity, which I would quite like them to do, because I don't see any reason to take this person out of continuity, even though he's in Legends right now. Judging on the timeline, 80 years before the Phantom Menace, I think the main Sith in this is Darth Tenebrous.
Yeah, it should be. It should
be. Because around the time, Plagueis would be 14 years old. The master of Palpatine, Sidious. Plagueis would be 14 years old. And like Palpatine, it's fine if we don't see Plagueis in this show.
Yeah.
If Tenebrous has another apprentice apart from Plagueis, which we already knew he did from the book, he had Venomous. I don't think we're going to be seeing Venomous or Venomous, however you want to say. But Tenebrous lived for a long time. He was a Biff who lived for a long time, mainly because of the dark side, but also because that species lives for a long time. So it's fine if we see another apprentice. We're definitely seeing the Sith, because the Jedi that in that trailer are like, you know, who are you? Like, and that whoever they fight has incredible powers. But there's a scene in the trailer where, and to me, it looks like Octo, what we see in The Last Jedi, where one of the Sith arrive in Octo. I don't, you know that island with all the water around it. I think that's Octo, and it makes sense that it would be, because at the end of the day, Octu is the birthplace of the Jedi.
Yeah.
But the Sith, essentially the Sith Order, not the Sith the species, like, you know, them red people. Like,
Yeah.
but the Sith Lords, like the Sith Order, came from the Jedi. So naturally, that would be a religious site for them as well, like, because that's the birth of their religion. And it would also explain why there is a dark side nexus on Octo, why Rey can feel it in The Last Jedi. So I think it's Octo or Octu, whatever the friggin' hell it's called. I don't know. It's called something.
It. Yeah, I've always pronounced it Octo from playing Last Jedi and stuff.
Yeah. But I would like to think, and I just hope that it is. If it's not, I'll be disappointed. I'm not going to lie, but at the same time, it's not going to ruin my experience. I would like it to be Tenebrous, the Sith Lord.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd be down for it. Because, like, as you rightfully said, you can't really go with Plagueis, you can't really go with Venomous as much, because they're still very much young apprentices. So
yeah, and like I said, there's no point in changing the continuity. You have literally got. I mean, Disney's been pulling from Legends for a long time, so you might as well use the resources that you've got in Legends. There, Tenebrous has a full backstory. You might as well use him.
And I feel like Dave Filoni wouldn't sugarcoat around it. I know he would sit down and be like, look, we're going to go this way and direct with it. Because I know he's helping with it. I know he's not the head director on it, but obviously he now like oversees everything Star Wars. So he'll definitely put the 2 cents in of being like, you've got this legend content, use it.
Yeah, 100%. I love the fact that we're getting I love the fact that we're getting High Republic Jedi, and this is a really interesting time of history to explore for the Jedi, because, like I said, if you read the novels or listen to the audiobooks of the High Republic era, Jedi aren't like what they are in the Phantom Menace era, the Clone era. They're not as tied to the Republic as they are then. They're very separated from the Republic, and they help, like, you know, they help out and make their own decisions. Like, you know, like the Nihil, for example, they help destroy the Nihil. It would also be really nice to see a couple of other Jedi from the High Republic. We already know we're getting one of them. I can't remember her name at the moment. I think it's something Rowe or Venestra Rowe. We're getting her. I'm so happy that we're getting her. She's a really cool character. There's going to be quite a lot of interesting things that I think we're going to be seeing in this show. That stuff that's just not been explored. What I will say is, I know I'm speaking a lot. Like, I'm just trying to get a lot off my chest.
I'm letting you go. Yeah, I'm letting you go because I'm agreeing with a lot of what you're saying. This is, for me, Acolyte right now is I'm going to sit and watch and let it happen because I love the High Republics. I love Knights of the Old Republic. Just that era of like very early Star Wars is some of my favorite stuff because it's untapped potential. Like, that's
I agree.
Because we've never seen it on a screen format. We've seen it in books, we've seen it in video games, but we've never truly seen it come to a television series or a film. So I want to see the direction of where Force goes, because we know in Knights of the Old Republic and a lot of the High Republic, Force was very new to a lot of people. It was very much more a magic principle.
Well, yeah, like, well, at this time, like, this was before people started to turn on the Jedi because of the influence of the Sith. Like, it's called the High Republic for a reason. This was a time of massive prosperity and expansion for the Republic when they was like expanding into the Outer Rim, and where the Republic was beginning to take shape as we know it in the Clone era. And at the time, Jedi were seen as these people who could do nothing wrong. They were the watchers, basically, of the Star Wars universe. That they were a higher being, like they were seen as gods.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the whole like Force was such like a magical entity for them. They felt like they had godhood as soon as they could touch it. Like,
what I will say about this era as well is, This has the and this, in my mind, this is the case for me. In my mind, this show has the potential to cover up or like explain one of the biggest plot holes in Star Wars history. And in my mind, this is the biggest plot hole in Star Wars history. And it's one line. It's one line that doesn't make any sense unless you have some explanation. So in The Phantom Menace, we hear that the Sith have been extinct for 1,000 years.
Yes. Yeah.
So what that means is the last time that the Jedi supposedly knew about the Sith was when the Sith weren't when the Sith were before the Darth Bane era, when there was like you had a Sith army, where there was 1,000 Sith in the galaxy, where there was a lot of them hanging around, where you had the Brotherhood of Darkness with Lord Khan, and that's what it was in Legends, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the film, Yoda turns around and says, "Only two there are, a master and an apprentice." And Windy's like, "So which one was destroyed, the master or the apprentice?" Talking about Darth Maul.
Yeah.
How does Yoda know about the rule of two? If the last time he saw the Sith was before the rule of two was invented.
Yeah.
Because the Jedi thought that the Jedi thought the Sith were extinct. That's how Bane, he was the last surviving Sith. If you've read the Darth Bane novel, it's brilliant. That trilogy is unbelievable. But at the start, he destroys all of the Sith.
Yeah.
He kills them all. And he's the last surviving member. So the Jedi think they're all gone, escaped from this galaxy. So the only way I could think they would explain this is Yoda decides, as the Grand Master, to keep it a secret from the general public that the Sith are still there. Like it's, I would like to think, because this kind of makes sense, that the Jedi know that the Sith exist.
Yes.
Or like very only certain members of the, because Ki-Adi-Mundi says the Sith have been extinct for a millennia, so he doesn't know. Or like he's pretending not to know in front of Anakin because he's not a member of the Jedi Order yet when he's just a kid.
That's where I'd lean to, is that they're trying to not make it known to the general public, like to try and keep
exactly,
because you don't want like a mass hysteria as soon as like, oh no, a Sith's appeared.
Exactly. When Qui-Gon Jinn says it, dude, even the way Ki-Adi-Mundi says it is sus. Yeah. He turns around and goes, "Impossible. The Sith have been extinct for a millennia." And he's like, so the way I look at it is, and Yoda has a track record of doing this. He decided to keep the existence of the Leveler a secret. Like those creatures who essentially suck all of the Force out of the Jedi and turn them into ash. He decides to keep them a secret. He doesn't, as the Jedi, he doesn't tell the rest of the galaxy that that's what the Levelers are, and then they're all gone. So I would like to think that it's kind of a bluff here. The Sith think they're being dead secret, and they don't think the Jedi know that they exist. The Jedi know that the Sith exist, but are not telling anyone, just in case the Sith find out that the Jedi know that the Sith exist. I would like to think that that is the story. But the way you put that story into effect is you lay the groundwork in this show.
Yeah. I'd agree on
that. Maybe this apprentice dies, which I'm assuming it probably happens. But Yoda somehow knows that that wasn't the master.
Yeah.
And if it's Tenebrous, obviously Tenebrous trains Plagueis. Plagueis trains Palpatine. We know how that story ends. But it'd be nice to think that the groundwork would be laid here. And it would cover the huge plot hole in Star Wars.
Yeah.
But that's just my thoughts.
No, I 100% agree on a lot of what you said there. I think combat's going to be very interesting in Acolyte because not many people can use lightsabers. Not many people know how to use the Force correctly. It'll be a lot more martial art, open-handed combat because that's the sword styles, because we're going back to the old traditional Jedi methods. So that's what I'm very like the most excited about, is just seeing how traditionally Jedi's fight in these type of scenarios now.
I agree. I love to see it, and like live action fights as well.
Also, kyber crystals are going to play a very keen part. A lot of them are not going to know what side of the Force they are going to be, so a lot of the blades will look more yellow than green or anything like that.
Well, this is why I love the High Republic, because the people with yellow lightsabers, in the Clone era they're called Sentinels, but in the High Republic era they're called Wayfinders.
Wayfinders,
they're essentially Jedi who get permission from the Council to follow the Force. By the way, basically let the Force guide their path. Essentially,
and that's why it blends the lines between good and evil, and that's why it stays more yellow in the hue with Wayfinders.
Well, you had a Jedi in the High Republic era called Elzar Mann, who fell to the dark side or touched the dark side and let it corrupt him briefly. So then he had to go on basically a sabbatical with a Wayfinder who helped him meditate and like train him to come back to the light side and control his fear and his anger. Elzar Mann is one of the coolest friggin' Jedi in Star Wars, dude. If people don't know his character, go and look Elzar Mann up. He's such a cool character. Honestly. But yeah, there's so many characters who I would love to see. I would love to explore more High Republic era in TV shows. I think it'd be absolutely awesome. And then this could continue. If this was successful, they could go further back and cover the Old Republic, bring some of the canon in. Like, I'd love to see a Knights of the Old Republic TV show with Revan and Malik. That would be incredible. Even Darth Nihilus and Traya, that'd be dope. Yeah, I would love to see any of that. But I've been talking for way too much, dude. Have you got anything to say about the Acolyte? Anything else?
Just pure excitement. I think the cast as well, arguably, is some of the most interesting, and the fact that the director of The Matrix and John Wick is helping direct this Star Wars. It's going to have some cool cinematography in it.
Yes, it will. I am excited for that as well. That's going to be dope. Yeah. You're spot on with that. Like, that's going to be a really interesting dynamic, that a Star Wars show produced and directed by the person who worked on The Matrix. Like the two of the best franchises of all time come together.
Exactly.
Right there.
I was like, oh, for sci-fi, that's huge. Getting someone awesome. That worked The Matrix to work for Star Wars, sign me up.
Yeah, 100%. Right. Now, just to finish off, you've got some things to tell me about
Star Wars Outlaws, the brand new open world Star Wars game that is coming out by Ubisoft.
That's going to be so dope.
It's going to be a very fresh take on Star Wars. You play as a bounty hunter, which I think is really cool in itself. What they revealed, which I think you're going to be very excited for, as you travel to planets, you can have random encounters and get into dog fights while you transfer to different planets.
Oh,
you get to explore all of the Outer Rim as well. That's what they've already stated. And there is going to be several DLC plans in the future as well, like very big exclusive missions that will lead into the bigger Star Wars universes. But yeah, we got a really cool story trailer. We saw multiple planets. We got to see Scout Troopers again, which I thought was really cool.
Nice.
They get one of the older droids. It's kind of like a merge of, the Roger, like very basic ones, but then it's in the it's also in the big battle droid ones. It's kind of like a merge of the two of them. He joined you as like a companion droid.
Oh yes, nice.
And he's like really sassy. So I'm very excited for that. And yeah, apparently a lot of the game is going to be semi-open world, so you will have like set missions on those planets, but you can just go and explore the whole planets.
That's dope. It's like a modern day KOTOR. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited to just get to play in it because the story just sounds really awesome. You play as a girl called Kay. And yeah, she just is basically tasked with trying to pull off one of the biggest heists in Star Wars, and that's your whole story arc. And I love that.
What I've heard as well is that this is fully canon as well. This game, right?
Yeah, they've made sure it's all canonized, which I was very happy about because my worry with a lot of Star Wars games is, it's in its own universe. It's in the Star Wars universe, but it's its own timeline. It's its own canon. I'm like, can we not have it just connect to what we already have? So that way, potential cool things in the future, like Jedi Fallen Order and like
About to say that,
Last
yeah.
Jedi,
Yeah, like literally. I like the fact that the sort of how do I say this? With Jedi Survivor, they fully put Cal Kestis into the conversation of fully canon because he's the one who finds the path to save the Jedi, which is what Obi-Wan travels on in the Obi-Wan show. He's the one who finds and creates that path to that planet. Also, what I'm really excited for this game is the fact that I know that Crimson Dawn is going to be in this game.
Yes.
So we're going to be seeing Kira. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Kira.
I also forgot to mention this. You get 3 different battle types. So as I said, you get dogfights in the ships.
Mm-hmm.
You get ground combat, which is obviously your basic combat with battle blasters and everything. You also get motor vehicle combat. So if you're on a speed bike, so a speedster, you have speedster battle. You can slow motion while you're on a speedster, slow down, aim like you're in Red Dead 2, aim with your blaster, and then it goes back into full speed so the blasters hit them as you're flying off.
Oh, that is dope, man. That's cool. It's like bullet time. That's cool.
They've got like bullet time in it and stuff like that. And just like the potential of villains you've got because you're playing a bounty hunter. I'd love to see like other bounty hunter conversations. Well,
you're definitely going to be having that because it take place in between Empire and Jedi.
Yeah, it does. I know.
5 and 6.
Yeah.
So we're probably going to be seeing Bask and Boba and Dengar. I would love to see Chrysanthemum. That'd be dope to see a Black Chrysanthemum.
Boba's the big one for me. I'd love to have like interaction with that just for fun.
Definitely Boba. Yeah, 100%.
And I believe the game has made all your ships and all your gear customizable as well.
Oh, yes, please. I've got one other name to throw at you, seeing as we're talking about bounty hunters, and if it does take place in between 5 and 6, this means it only takes place around about 10 years, 8 years before the show. Could we see Din Djarin?
Oh, please.
Because if you remember in the first season of The Mandalorian, he meets up with obviously Mayfeld and everything for the first time when they robbed that prison ship, and the guy who plays that guy who's in Sons of Anarchy, I can't remember his name.
I know.
Talks about the good old days with Mando when they were all very young and reckless and stuff like that. Imagine if we saw that.
That'd be sick. I'd love stuff like that.
It would be cool because there's a load of other people we could see them, like Cheyenne, who is in that episode, that Twi'lek. Who kind of has a thing for Mando. We might see Mayfeld. That'd be cool. I'd love to see Mayfeld. Just a load of other people who you could potentially see in this game. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm definitely honestly, when you get off this, watch the gameplay trailer because you'll see a lot more of what I meant. Yeah, I'm super excited for this. This arguably is going to be some of the best Star Wars content for me, video game wise. I hadn't enjoyed a lot of the Star Wars games previously, other than Jedi Survivor and Last Jedi. Those games for me were incredible.
Yeah.
So knowing I can play potentially a semi-open world story-esque game like those as a bounty hunter just ticks all the boxes off for me. But I will fight the game company that cancelled the one game I wanted them to do, and I'm very angry they did this. They were going to make a Boba Fett game.
Oh, the 1313. Is it called 1313?
Yeah, it was going to be 1313. It was
On
going to be
Coruscant.
going to be a full bounty hunter game that followed Boba Fett on Coruscant, and they got rid of it. And yeah.
I know that's crap, that dude. But we're eating well so far, and for the rest of the year for Star Wars. Like, I just want to wrap up and say that.
Yeah, we're great.
We've been eating so well. We've got the end of the Bad Batch. Absolutely amazing way to end that show. We have just had Tales of the Empire. Obviously, we're getting an amazing game coming up later this year. It looks like we're probably getting Mando season 4 at the end of this year / the start of next year. So we're just eating well as Star Wars fans. So before we wrap up, have you got anything to say about like what you're excited for in particular?
Genuinely, probably Acolyte and the new video game. Like, those two scream out to me. Like, I'm already enjoying Tales of the Empire, like, as we've spoke. But yeah, those two are the big scream outs for me. And if Mando happens, like, I'm fully down for that. But for me personally, right now, anything Ahsoka related, I want the more of Ahsoka, because that pulled me. Like, that was just basically another season of Rebels for me, and I like Rebels is one of my all-time favorites. So I was like,
yeah, for real. Yeah, I'm so down for it. I've changed my mind in Andor. I'm actually enjoyed it now. The next time I watched it, I actually quite enjoyed it. Not gonna lie. So I'm excited for season 2. That whenever that comes out, and like you said, for Ahsoka. But yeah, like guys, like this has been an episode of the Star Wars podcast, like what me and Ross love to do. It's been wrapping up all the great Star Wars content that we've had, but obviously we cover wrestling as well for the most part. So make sure you stay tuned for the rest of the week, because you're going to be getting a SmackDown review from Ross or G on Saturday. It'll be you. There we go. Yeah, wrestling review from Ross coming up. Make sure you go and have a look at the Raw and the NXT reviews from this week from yours truly and Courtney. Amazing. Ross, what have we got coming up on the podcast next week?
I know we're potentially talking about Backlash. Our thoughts of Backlash, because obviously we chose the Star Wars episode to make sure we spoke about that batch, because that's just pretty much finished. But yeah, I believe we're talking about Backlash, like our afterthoughts of that pay-per-view and what was really good about it. I know you guys will also be having King and Queen of the Ring predictions. I will not be there in person watching it with you, because I am at a festival that day. But I will message in the chat my reactions and things after, because I'll watch it in the hotel after my festival anyway.
Hell yeah, no worries. Well, guys, if you like this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up and subscribe, and remember to click on that bell so you never miss a video from Outcasted OC. Go follow us on X / Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at Outcasted OC. All of the links to everyone else's personal channels will be in the description down below. But it's been an absolutely amazing podcast talking about my favorite subject, one of Ross's favorite subjects, and it's going to be good eating for the next month, because we're getting the Acolyte. But for now, guys, take care. Peace out.
Bye, guys.